With the recent successful release of Sly Cooper via PlayStation's new PS2 emulator on PS5, I figured now would be a great time to talk about what games I want from the PS2 moved over to PS5 with trophy support. These are my top 10 PS2 games I want on PS5. Now, before we get into this, the already existing PS2 games with the PS4 version will be spared, so no Jak and Daxter, Manhunt, or any of the GTA games. Also, I'm leaving out Sly since I assumed that they did Sly 1, that they would do 2 and 3, but we'll see how that turns out. But with that being said, let's dive right in to our first title. Thanks to the TV show Smiling Friends, this game has seen some more renewed interest as of late, and it holds up surprisingly well. But if you're like me, you never actually got to buy this game, but I did spend hours upon hours rewatching the intro and playing the demo on Need for Speed Underground 2. I played that demo nearly as much as I did Need for Speed Underground in general, but the amount of nostalgia I have for that intro cutscene with Lazy Generation being used as the intro, it's just awesome. Personally, I think this would be such a fun and refreshing game to go back to and get the Platinum Trophy for. If you haven't been able to tell from the gameplay alone thus far, there are a wide variety of game modes where essentially you are either racing or causing as much havoc as possible, whether that be modes like Traffic Collision, Eliminator, Road Rage, or Burning Lap. There's so many different ways to play Burnout 3 Takedown. I don't quite remember the specifics as to which game mode is each, but I know that this game was so fun and I just absolutely love wrecking everyone else and causing as much havoc as possible. I'm not sure what exactly it is about this game that resonates with so many games that I like today, like Journey, God of War, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. It is kind of an escort mission, traversing this world, protecting this woman with your sword from monsters, but it's a lot more fun than it looks, honestly. It also does a lot more showing you than it does telling you when it comes to the story. A focus on emotions of these characters through their actions and interactions. Even in the gameplay, you are protecting her, holding her hand, and at many points she's helping you back as well. It's a game that is just a little too artsy for its own good given the era, but I just absolutely love it for that. It has so much care. The whole experience is emotional, scored with fantastic music and tons of exploration. Team Ico did an amazing job creating this incredibly large castle for you to traverse with your companion Yorda. The sense of scale here is just awesome. It's so immersive in terms of you just focusing on that emotional connection. There's a non-existent HUD. It really just lends itself well to prioritizing protecting Yorda. And it's a game you can really lose yourself in, and I just love it for that. I don't want to spoil the incredible experience, but it would be fitting to have on PS5, and would honestly be great to see that you get the same treatment as Shadow of the Colossus. I totally want this game on PS5 so that more people can experience it. Coming in at the number 8 spot is the Simpsons Hit and Run. If you are somehow unfamiliar with this wonderful cult classic, it's a 2003 game based on the popular hit TV show The Simpsons that is, for better or worse, a wholesome GTA clone. It follows the Simpsons as they become engulfed in a fun little mystery that entails surveillance bots, strange cola, aliens, zombies, and just a whole lot of absurdity that you would expect from an episode of The Simpsons. There aren't any guns. The most you can do is kick people, run into them, and fight some enemies and break some boxes. But what really sells this game is the exploration of Springfield and all of the fun little references and Easter eggs that this game is just absolutely filled to the brim with. Another great thing about this is all the different vehicles, even secret ones, as well as the ability to play as Homer, Bart, Lisa, Marge, and Apu, all in different areas. Most of the gameplay consists of driving around, getting to places in time, hitting something, picking it up, collecting however many, things like that. It's such a fun game, and sure, a lot of the difficulty is somewhat artificial thanks to the game's timers, but to this day, it's a cult classic for so many people who really love it, and I am definitely one of them. The Simpsons Hit and Run is another great game stuck on PS2, and I would just love to see it make its way to PS5 with a brand new trophy list. Taking the number 7 spot is another cult classic, and that is Rayman 3. Last port of the PS3, there aren't a lot of ways to play this title, and it's another game that I grew up playing that is just near and dear to my heart. I ended up revisiting this game sometime in high school on the PS3, and I was really surprised with how well it held up. It was such a good foray for the Rayman series, and I'm honestly sad there aren't many other games quite like it, particularly within the Rayman series. Don't get me wrong, I think that Rayman Legends and Rayman Origins are incredible titles that are beautiful and wonderful, but I miss when 3D platformers were such a prominent genre within gaming. They focused on art and personality rather than fidelity. This game has that in droves. So many characters translated in 3D are so fun, stylish, and whimsical in the best ways possible. This game literally just oozes with style, and I love it. The platforming mechanics introduced throughout make this such a fun experience, and I don't think any game plays quite like it. It has a style and aesthetic wholly unique, and I think that makes it worthy of being on PlayStation 5. At number 6 is a game I replayed within the past year or so, and that's Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And I will die on this hill that I think this might be one of the best movie tie-in games ever made. In fact, there were so many licensed games on this list that I debated doing a separate top 10 because just a lot of those fun games are stranded on those old platforms, and I just really miss playing them. But after replaying this game, there is no doubt in my mind that it should have been available on PS5. It has so many fun game modes and challenges in addition to the truly fantastic campaign. There's so much detail put into the combat, the variation between the characters, whether that be their idle animations or different attacks, or so much more. Just going through these levels from the movie while John Williams' score blares in the background is truly a tremendous experience. It really feels like the summation of a lot of what encapsulates and makes the prequel era of Star Wars so special. Playing through the game, watching the scenes from the movies is such a fun experience. And there is just so much to unlock, including a fighting game mode, which I thought was so fun when I was a kid. With all of that here, I think that this could be a really cool trophy list, and I would love for a trophy list to be able to make me experience this game in a way I hadn't before. Landing at the number 5 spot is Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. This game is actually so good, it's insane. Once again, another tie-in game left to die on this generation of consoles. It's really cool. It is exactly what you'd expect. It allows you to play through all of the highlights of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It's a game with a really fun and well done combat system that is rather unbecoming of a licensed game, especially for that time. The game is interwoven with clips from the movies as you get to play with all your favorite characters, including Gandalf, Frodo, Samwise, Gimli, Legolas, and more. The entire game is designed with so much care, and there is clear understanding of the reference material here. The battles feel so epic, and the scale is on display, and it is so grandiose. It even has narration and voice acting from the original cast, very much in the vein of Battlefront 2's campaign, which had Tamir Morrison as the narrator. Having Gandalf narrate everything is just as epic and wonderful and faithful fan service. Additionally, the game is a fun co-op experience that I remember playing with my dad growing up all the time. And if this gets put on PS5, it would truly be a gem worth checking out. Additionally, maybe I too can finally pass through Shelob's Lair and get past all those disgusting spiders that gave me nightmares as a kid. Hopefully that doesn't get copyrighted, but if it hasn't, then you know where this is going. That's right. Coming in at the number 4 spot is SSX Tricky, and I know so many people think SSX 3 is better, and for good reason, but god damn it, this was one of my first PlayStation 2 games, and I still play it to this day. I absolutely love this game. This game has so much style through its sound design, soundtrack and mixing, its wonderful cast of characters, its ridiculous trick animations. It's just the perfect level of over the top that I just really enjoy. It feels so good, and the tricky meter and the boost it generates are just so great. Such a good way to balance character and style within a game like this. The track design is just astounding. The sense of scale, the wide variety of colors, it's just beautiful and stylistic. This game has charisma and diversity, and I adore it for that. I mean, I literally love everything about this game, and I really think that a trophy list would get me to play this game in ways I hadn't before, whether it be completing all the trick books, all the tutorials, maxing out the stats, unlocking all the outfits and all characters. This is a game with a lot of fantastic content in terms of unlockables, but it's pretty straightforward, and it's a game that's good enough that I find myself revisiting it regularly and would fit perfectly on the PlayStation 5. I've talked about this game for years. It's my personal favorite sports game, NBA Street Volume 2. Along with the previously mentioned SSX Tricky, I think that this game hits the balance of the over-the-top feeling much more feasible than what the series later became by Home Court. We've all seen highlights of players getting crossed up in the most ridiculous ways ever, and I've seen some fantastic dunks over the years. All of this is just further punctuated by the fact it came out in the middle of the golden age of street basketball in the United States, with the prominence of And One mixtapes and anyone who even tried to emulate it. For those of you that are unfamiliar, it's the equivalent of basically a combo video but for basketball, combining fantastic hip-hop tracks with the most insane highlights you have ever seen in your life. In fact, a lot of the moves in this game that seem insane exist on those mixtapes. These mixtapes were co-signed by artists like Snoop Dogg and Mobb Deep, as well as NBA players like Kevin Garnett, Jamal Crawford, and Latrell Sprewell. It all intersects at this crossroad that is music and sports, hip-hop and basketball. It's the embodiment of a time, a place, a scene, and a culture. NBA Street Volume 2 feels incredibly authentic because it pulls from this exact place. It is a product inspired by what was going on at the time, and it shows. When it comes to the best mechanics, this game is wholly unique. The PS2 controller lends itself to the game as it features 4 triggers. These buttons use the turbo meter. The more buttons you hold, the more meter you use, which makes you faster, makes your tricks more effective and flashy, and your dunks, of course, more powerful. Each combination produces unique results, L1 different than L2, both different than R1 or R2, combining R2 and R1, or R2 and L2, or L1 and R2. Hold all 4 and get a backboard dunk, crazy rolling tricks, which you want to be powerful and you want to be flashy in order to build your meter. And if you want to build up to level 1 game breaker or level 2, if while you're building to level 2, they can build up their level 1 and use theirs to cancel yours to bring you back down to prevent you from getting level 2. So that has this really fun and interesting dichotomy. There's a level 1 game breaker meter and a level 2 game breaker. Level 1 game breakers give you a normal amount of points, will subtract 1 from your opponents. Like any other shots, that can still be blocked, but with level 2 game breakers, depending on where you stand, you'll get one of a multitude of cutscenes. These will be incredible team plays that will get you additional points and subtract even more from your opponent. This game, through all the mechanics, just has the best balance of both offensive and defensive play. At no point do I really feel like either side is lacking. Both offensive and defensive options just feel like I have all the tools that I want or need in that situation. You have to play into the strengths of your players, and that's a large part of the fun as well. Everyone has varying stats. You need to be looking to get your center in the paint. He can't shoot or dribble, but nobody is going between you and that man in the basket without falling on their ass. The more you embarrass your opponents through handles and through contested dunks, the higher the meter, the better their chances are that you have, because you will be using these powerful game breakers. This game has such a rewarding gameplay loop, and it's a game that I would love to see make a comeback on PlayStation 5. Number 2, Ratchet Deadlock. I want to make it clear, while I don't think this is the best Ratchet and Clank game, it is the most unique and the only one whose PS3 port was absolutely marred with a plethora of issues. As opposed to the other Ratchet and Clank games, it was left off of the trilogy. It's much less of a platforming adventure with Clank on your back, and it has a lot more focus on direct arena combat, vehicle missions, and just really laying waste to your enemies. This is further aided by the weapon upgrade system, which in my opinion is by far the best, most fun, and experimental the series has ever been in that department. Multiple mods for multiple weapons with elemental effects. There's just so much going on, and in the plot, Ratchet and Clank are being kidnapped along with Big Al, and they have to destroy and defeat this basically dark entertainment network that profits from the suffering of sentient species. With that there are so many fun little nods and plenty of adult humor jokes that are just subtle enough that they pair well with the social commentary that the games are known for. It's one of my favorite co-op experiences, so having it on PS5 would be truly incredible. I already like the trophy list on PS3, but between the crashes, save file corruptions, frame rate drops, that is far from the best way to play it, and relying on the PS2 as the most successful way to play it is also not my first choice, even though I still do that. I would love to see it get moved along with the rest of the Ratchet and Clank games onto the PS5 and get a proper treatment, one that is actually properly play-tested and available on modern consoles. Taking the number 1 spot is the game that I always default to do when I didn't know what to play as a kid, and that is Tony Hawk's Underground. The truth is, I need both of these on PS5, but it would be such a fun game to come back to, and I particularly missed the first game so much, so that's why I chose it over Tony Hawk Underground 2. If you're somehow unfamiliar with Tony Hawk's Underground, it takes the base that the Pro Skater games were built on and expanded everything to give you better looking and more varied environments, amping up the ridiculousness of the tricks, and gave the game that very crude but lovable mid-2000s edge. I love the other ones control-wise, but I feel like with these two just feel so right on the PlayStation 2. They have plenty of references and maps from the Pro Skater games, and that really helps flesh it out, as well as multiple game modes and tons to unlock, including characters like Iron Man and all the members of KISS for some reason. But For the first time, they gave these games a real story. Your character and his friend Eric Sparrow, and then all the professionals in between as you go and make your journey to become a professional skater yourself. The antics and humor in this game have not aged the best, I will say that, but it's also such a time capsule of that era for better or worse. Regardless, it's still an incredibly fun time. As you would expect, the game features a wide variety of famous skaters from that time, including of course Tony Hawk, Bam Margera, Rodney Mullen, Bob Burnquist, Mike Valley, Chad Muska, and many, many more. Overall, this is just a fun and classic Tony Hawk experience that seems to be left all the way back on this generation, and I think it would be awesome to see all those games brought back and preserved with at least some form of emulation.